evening, all. My name is Sambath Krishnan. It's difficult to pronounce, so just call me Sam. I'm from India. I'm here for last 8 months, and I'm goofing entire Europe, and making the Europe Poland as my headquarters, and I'm just doing nothing right now. It's my long holidays like that, and I'm doing some freelancing work meanwhile. I'm a front-end developer for past 6 months, past 6 years. And I used to be developing the framework called Git, that is Google Web Toolkit. It's more like you can code everything in Java. It magically converts into JavaScript to the UI, web UI. So it's more like I'm a Java guy with no idea how the JavaScript works. I used to be like that. And after a while, I started digging into what's JavaScript, and I getting more interested into how it works, and I'm very much fascinated about it. Then that's why I want to present my talks regarding JavaScript, what's up JavaScript in the context of myself. It's more like I'm learning JavaScript for last 1 year, and right now I'm into backend development in Golang, but I'm a JavaScript enthusiast. I'm started learning my own self, and giving you some heads up from the Google. Right now you heard about the product like Google Inbox and Google Spreadsheet. They are using a technique called cross-platform development, where they are using 70% of code is common between web, Android, and iOS devices. Because they achieved this by writing their entire business codes, business logic codes, not the UI codes of the client side in Java. They transpile into JavaScript using Git compiler, and for Android is Java. They invented one more tool called Java to Objective-C. Java to Objective-C, so it will convert Java to Objective-C. It is more like you can able to share 70% of code between 3 platforms. I used to be a good developer. I'm also a contributor to Git framework. I thought for a while the Git was dead, but fortunately, I was listening to the Git repository of Git, what's happening, and all of a sudden, Google started to check in a hell lot of codes. Then when I started realizing that there is something big going to happen, and the big thing happened was this one. What was this? They can able to transport. It's more like Java is a mature language for 20 years old. I think how much years old Java is? I think it's a 15 years old language, more than. And you have mature libraries are there. A lot of mature libraries are there. We can able to make use of it for other platforms like JavaScripts. So they devised a solution. They improved the Git compiler to accommodate this. Using something called JsInterop. They introduced in the latest release of 2.7 Git release. Before that, we had something called JsTime, JavaScript native interfaces. It is very clumsy, and it will have a lot of boilerplate code to convert from Java to JavaScript, or is vice versa. But right now, it made it very simpler that it's more like you have to do nothing. It's more like you can easily adding some few annotations on Java and annotation on Java code. You can able to convert it into JavaScripts, and else we can do the same thing vice versa. I'm going to talk about it for briefly, and I'm going to talk some few other libraries that have been used by the corporates, especially in corporate banks for the services. Okay, JsInterop. It's more like a they created a few annotations that been used by Google Git compiler to understand that this has to be. Come on. Yeah, it has. It has to become, JsInterop been used to provide a duplex access. Duplex access between the JavaScript and JavaScript and Java. They introduced new annotations in a Git compiler. It's more like a Git compiler has their own Java emulations. They didn't use the exact JVM. They have their own emulations of Java. It's more like their own JVM, but it's more for Java. they have a new annotation called JsType. If you put a JsType over the class, it will tell the good compiler that it has to transpile into JavaScript codes. It was only for non-static codes, especially for your. I need to officially drink so that it will work. Yep.
Yep.
I'm sorry, guys.
Applause. Yeah, thank you very much. Yeah. Typical. That's not Mac's fault. Oh, I wanted to tell you that every one of you can become a speaker. And actually, now we have booked time till October. But if you want to have a presentation in November or December or January, you're welcome to contact us on email on WarsawJS, and then there you can say. Yeah, that's it.
Recently, latest release of Git release has a new annotation called JsType, being used to mark a class that been bridged to JavaScript and vice versa. We can use this, and if you use it on interface, for instance, if you create a Java interface for a JavaScript object or for an object, we can able to access all the methods in Java using these annotations, and vice versa from Java to JavaScript, but only for non-static codes for all the instance methods and the instance properties. This is more like if you want to transport a full implementation to JavaScript, we can do it if you mark the interface or the class as the annotations of Java JsType, and we can. They have a special method called JS. It's a static method. We can able to call the JavaScript function, some JS method, and pass the object into it. And we can we can call the my method of Java method inside the JavaScript, so that we can able to use all the Java codes within the Java, most of the codes, except the codes that uses threads, because threads not supported right now by good compiler, but soon using web workers. But so far it can do it. And there is another annotation property called JSProperty. It is being used to expose the fields. It's more like you need to expose some method as a field in JavaScript. It is more like if you have a foo has a method called x, you want to expose it as a field in JavaScript in this JavaScript object. We can do it using using JSProperty annotation. If you put it on the Java code, it will magically convert it into a property access in JavaScript. For instance, you have like a my type class, have a method called hello, but you want it to be as access as a field in JavaScript. Using the JSProperty, we can able to transpile it. We have using good compiler, and they introduce a new annotations. It's a bleeding edge. Right now, it's being used in the nightly releases alone, called JS export and JS namespaces. It will do the exportation of constructors, enumerations, static modifier, static methods and static fields to the JavaScript world. And they have one more method called JS namespace because Java has a complicated package name because we have com dot 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 dot. We have a lot of package overlays. So if you want to access in a particular class within a package means you need to go in further and further. So they created a new annotation called JS namespace to ease down that process so that you can able to name that package into some simple alias in JavaScript. Something like that. It's more like class foo is more like if you want to export the constant 1 and 2, we can export it by JS export. Using for instance, it is another complicated, complex package, but you want to make as my library, so we can access by mylib.foo.constant. So it will be accessed by that way. Maybe I can give you a demo. It's just okay. It's zoom. I need to zoom it. Can you guys see it? No. Oh my god. Help, please. Any help? Zoom, but it's not working. Okay, Command plus. Command plus. No.
Hey, I just wanted to tell you, to remind you, that we will get the tokens, and these tokens can be used for as 10 zlotys in the bar for anything you want. And yeah, that's it. But okay, so you managed, no? Oh. So say thank you to our sponsors. Our sponsors are, you know who? Can you call it? It's 10 Clouds, Rebased, White Stream. That's giving us the streams, live streams to the internet, so that the whole world can see me now, telling you this. and the fourth sponsor is Cyfrowy Polsat, and actually cyfrowy means digital, but it's of course cyfrowy. We cannot translate the name. So it's not digital Polsat, it's cyfrowy Polsat. So sorry, but it's funny. Oh, you begin?
Okay.
Okay,
guys.
we skip that. Yeah. Oh, wait,
Sorry guys,
right,
I can't
continue.
do anything. It's more like I created a model of Java class. It's but I'm exporting it to JavaScript using JS export and JsTime, so that I can able to export both static and the non-instance properties to the JavaScript layer. What I'm doing was what the hell? I just created on the package info. I created a JS namespace. This package is more complicated package com.warsaw.warsaw.js client. I just mapped it as WarsawJS library, and I'm exporting here, and I'm just accessing the EX model. EX model, and I'm accessing its constructor. The constructor is being exposed by the annotation JsExport, and I'm creating a new object here of model, and I'm accessing the model's method property 1, which is hello JS ninjas, and I'm accessing the some util methods say something good. It's more I'm putting as a Java WarsawJS. For the output is here. It's more like I'm just transpiled some Java code into JavaScript, and also I'm transpiled some a date object of Java. Right now it's been transpiled to JavaScript, and it has access to all the methods of date functions. It's more like I have we have date class, extensive good date class in Java. It's been almost everything, all the functions been mapped to JavaScript right now. It's more like all the mature functionality of Java right now is accessible to JavaScript world, so that you don't need to recode everything in by hand. It's more like you need to do the transpile. In the transpilation right now, the only thing you can do can't do it was a threading, multi-threading. But eventually, it's more like maybe in another six months, threading also been introduced into JavaScript world using web workers, but I'm not sure. Right. Next one these are the valuable gains I gained from the some work I'm doing freelancing in Europe for some European banking agencies. The one of thing they requested me for was they want to minimize all the AJAX request calls. It is more like some AJAX request calls is more like has some time validity. It's more like it cannot be expired for another 20 minutes or 30 minutes. Has some expiration is there for them. The time to live is there, and so that every time there is a page refresh or especially in mobile, shouldn't make any more request to the server side, so that the server side also be very light, and also the browser has to be loaded even further fast. For that, we can use the leverage using the local storage. We can instead of looking for the HTTP head to look for anything is modified. We can get if the AJAX request comes with some expiration time in the cache with short time expiry, we can make use of it in the local storage. There is a good library there for there in jQuery right now, but it's not been right now. It's been abandoned. Right now, they are the developers, the contributors moved to a new library called iCache, where they are specialized in caching the AJAX request when there is a header that represents that there is a time expiry is there, short time expiry is there. For example, 30 minutes or 20 minutes or 1 minute. If there is an expiration time is there, time to live is there, instead of making a next request instead of making request to the server, we will show the data from the local storage for a while. It is a simple example. It uses the Rotten Tomato API. And where is that timeline? So resources. The first time it will make a AJAX request. Say at the time itself, it will create a local storage using this library iCache library and put it into the local storage with the time to TTL with to the time to live, so that it will be more like for a day or 2 days. It will be so that 2 days will be the same data, so that you don't need to make the same request, so that data can be loaded even further faster. And we can use the same local storage technique for caching the resources like JavaScript and CSS. Because when I was going through the source codes of the Google's Bing and the Google or Bing search, they are using local storage extensive than the cache. When I go doing research even further and deeper, I found out that the caching requires translation of their binary to strings, of especially the JavaScript strings and CSS. Instead of that, we can store it as in the local storage, the JavaScript as a string itself, and the CSS, so that we can load it even further faster. I couldn't able to. There are some good libraries are there. One of them was the Basket.js library. It was contributed by one of the Google's advocate. It is not exactly the Google's using, but it's more like the exact similar algorithm and the similar pattern they are using to caching the JavaScript and CSS using local storage instead of cache. And I couldn't able to find the benchmark for that, but there is a good benchmarking that it's more like about 150 milliseconds difference is there. While you are using loading something from cache and from local storage, there is a difference of 150 milliseconds faster in local storage. You can do it faster. It is loading from the Basket.js, the CSS. The Basket.js has an extensive API to control whether you need to execute the JavaScript. Sometimes you can load the JavaScript, don't want to execute. Using Basket.js, we can do it, and we can able to set the TTL here also by manually and also from the header. And one more thing recently I get into trouble was web packaging, because right now I'm using Git as the business client, the business client-side business logics for writing business client. Sorry, I'm using Git to write client-side business logics, but I'm using JavaScript UIs like bootstraps for to create the UIs, to merging it. For that, I need a good web packager. And when I'm going through the good web, going for the tools that support me for the web packaging, I found out that Browsify, Require.js, JSPM, and Webpack has these good solutions for packaging the multiple JavaScript and CSS into static JavaScript codes. And I found an interesting thing in Webpack. Webpack being is one of the ideal client for web packaging right now, because right now they are supporting pre-processing extensively. They are supporting loaders. We can able to create boilerplate codes using loaders, and also we can use the Browsify's transform for do the pre-processing. And they introduce a code splitting technique within the web packages, so that we can able to code split whenever we want. It's more like there is some UI codes that being used only need to be loaded only if there is a user action or some special use cases shouldn't be loaded all the time. So we can do it by code splitting. And also they are supporting multiple entry points. It's more like there is some source code sharing between two web pages. It's more in a single web in 2 web pages. We can able to create multiple entry points by that way that we can able to create a source file that is being commonly used between the 2 entry points of different pages. And one more thing I found out was there's a less runtime overhead. It's more like when you are using a Browsify, the additional code being added to your own code is more higher. compared to Webpack. So far, whatever the web packaging tool so far I encountered, the Webpack Webpack has less runtime overhead, so that they are including few lines of additional codes based for the entry point and for the code splitting techniques. If you go with Browsify, it is have about 14%. It's more higher than the Webpack source codes being added for the how the data being to be loaded. I need to skip this demo because I didn't have this demo with me. Next thing I was interested about is in the web performance API. Right now, Google and Facebook are pushing W3 console to create a good web performance API on browser level itself. They released 3 set of API right now to the production by W3 Council. One is navigation timing API. It is being used for the time to calculate between the navigation of your web pages, so that you can able to find out what's the time being used for network latency, DNS lookup, and first paint being loaded, and for where the content loaded event happens. We can able to create a good time span of good timeline of creating what happened at which milliseconds, because Google and Facebook are right now are pledged to create 60 frames per second flow in the web interaction, and it's one of the crucial for that. And they created one more thing called high resolution timing API. It is more like this API gives you more accurate timing signals. If you go with some regular JavaScript timing, it is more inaccurate. But this timing is give you more accurate benchmarking for do benchmarking. And the last one was the page visibility API. Being included, it used to find out the actual pages loaded are visible right now. It is very good useful when you have multiple tabs being opened to stop some animations when your tab is lose the focus. We can do that. And these are the timeline being by the W3 Council. That right now we have the recommendations. That's mean right now the navigation timing API, high resolution timing, and page visibility timing are being right now being in the Chrome browsers and Firefox browsers. Latest browsers has these APIs. And some other candidates are there. It's more like they are not sure. That's more like can be changed. The API can be changed. The resource timing APIs, it's more like the granular form of navigation time API. It is more like you can able to get the more information about each resources, how much it requires, how much time it requires to load from the request to the first paint. It will includes the server time with backend time, DNS lookup, network latency, client side forcing, and first paint. And they have the performance timeline. It is more like grouping all the resource timing data into a timeline. It is more like a just a moment. Right now, Google Chrome Canary introduce a new something called a fire chart. It is more like you can able to see the how much time you spent on JavaScript, and also in the paint, and also in recalculating the DOM for every line. It's based on the performance timeline API. And they introduced something called battery status API especially for mobile phones to get the status of the batteries. And user timing is used for benchmarking between all the functions of users. And you have a lot of other drafts are there. especially for animations and error loggings. I have the demo for this. This is a snippet. Contains the perform navigation time API. Okay, oops. I'm sorry. This snippet access the navigation time API data and showing it in front of you for this page. How much per time it's been used for connections, response, the domain lookup, and load events. And right now it's been used extensively in the dev tools in Chrome canaries. And when it comes to next thing was we can use this performance APIs, but we need a good tool to monitor it along with other indexes, especially for real-time user monitoring index and fast paint, and speed index is especially for latency and number of requests being used for the performance, and what's the time for backend and front time, and you versus your competitor. Sometimes it's more like a client asked me to compare me with all the competitors of my domain. So there is a solution. Right now they are being open sourced. It is more like we can do it. Okay. It is more like right now there is a guys open source something called SiteSpeed.io. They are in open sourced 3 Docker images that can be hosted by yourself for free. It will compare your navigation APIs, the performance APIs, along with your competitors, so they can able to create a good index of what's happening. Who has more leverage right now? It's more like who, for instance, your competitor right now accessing more third-party APIs, or you are using it, and what's the time, the first point yours, and it's more. It's a good dashboard to track down the your competitors and how you're doing in especially in performance in client side. Another thing I found out very good for me for our development was JS static type checker. It's called Flow. It's been introduced by Facebook. They have a good static type checking for to find out there is any inappropriate parameter processing for different since JavaScript is dynamic language, we can able to pass anything for anything into as a variable, but we want to create any static type checking. We can able to do it using the flow. I think I have. Okay. It's more like there is a function is there foo, but it doing an arithmetic calculations, but I'm passing as a string value. So it has to create a compilation error. It's more like I need a compilation and runtime error. So I need to do it on CI level itself. So we can do it using a static flow check. we can able to create the error while you are doing the CI binding itself. We can able to continuous integration itself. We can find out, and flow has annotations so that we can able to just a moment. We can able to sorry. Flow supports type annotations too. In the flow, we can able to support flows can able to put annotations to represent that this function, the x going to only accept string, and y going to be accept only new numbers, so that we can able to validate this type checking while in static flow statically instead of doing right runtime checks in the CI level itself. We can able to in the integration level itself we can find it. I need to move farther fast. And one more thing I found out was really good was the improve your okay. One finish. Okay. Next thing I found interesting thing is you can able to reduce at 200 milliseconds for every request if you configure your web server perfectly. It's more like a very good manner. Especially I can use the use case of Nginx, where we can use the combination of TCP no delay and TCP no push and TCP send files to make a good combination to find out, not to find out, to resolve the package size to be sent, so that we can able to send data as much soon as possible. This is more like we have frames. You have frames. We have 5 frames complete and 6th frame is incomplete. You have 5 frames means on these 5 frames you will use a TCP no push. The TCP no push what will do was it will look for the maximum segment size, and if it reaches the maximum segment size, only it will send the data through the network. Until then, it will halt the buffer. But at the last end, if you reach the end, the time it will be more like we don't have to wait for the 2 milliseconds, 0.2 milliseconds. At that time, we can have to switch from no TCP no push to TCP no delay, so that we can have to we can push the last remaining data when it reaches instead of waiting for the complete to 0.2 milliseconds, so that we can able to reduce approximately 0.2 milliseconds especially in the Nginx server. And if you include send file flag, because in send file flag in the Nginx server being used to dictate the kernel that we can able to send files from the one file descriptor another file descriptor on kernel space level itself, instead of switching the context, so that we can able to transfer static file changes from server to here very fast. And one more thing I found in for the is the compression for the static resources. Especially, it will be helpful for us in the, compressing a static resources like JavaScript, CSS, and images. Called the library called Soloff. It is use the same algorithm as WebP, the image format. It will give you about 5% more compression than all other gzip compatible compression libraries there, but it will be more slower in compression, but it will give you more compression rate. But while we are deflating this the content, it will be as much fast as other compression libraries they exist in the market right now being used. I'm skipping this demo. And next one is ECMA 7 code to do clean async codes. We know promises are good. We can able to create a good callback readable code with promises, but still it's more like we need to write a statement after statement by dot dot dot. It is more inconvenient when it comes to reading the code. In the ECMA 7, they introduce a new 2 keywords called async and await, where we can able to create an async function. Async function can support await the keyword only alone. It is more like instead of creating a promise, we can use instead of creating a promise to get do the post, we will use the await to do the same thing. Same thing we use for the get, so that we can able to create a readable code looks like synchronous, but it will act like asynchronous. I'll skip the demo because it's no time. And one more thing I found out is Datascript. It is one more good library being used in JavaScript called Datascript. It is used for in-memory immutable data stores. For you want to store an auditable data store in for your web applications, this is one of the good thing in right now available in the market. They are more the same implementation of Datomic. It is more like server-side implementation of immutable data store. It is more like auditable data store, like a database. But it's this implementation is only for the client side. If you want to, if you have a complicated web UI, so that we can able to do rollbacking very often, and you want to do the rollback and redo undo for more often. This API, this library has a good APIs and performance to do that very effectively. If you know this pattern, means this pattern is a Flux pattern. Right now, we are considering this pattern for our web clients and also for our Android and our iOS devices, where we are going to use for the web. We are going to use the data for storage in the Flux pattern. We're going to use the store as the Datascript so that we can able to change the store, and we can roll back to the state of the store as accordingly whenever we want. And we are trying to use use core async. It's more like one more good library there in the JsScript called core async. We can able to pass the events there instead of even callbacks. We can use CSP, communication sequence processes, to send the events more easy way, because in the even mechanism we use a global highway to send all the events, but in the core async it will create a specific tunnel between the components, so the data transferring speed will be more faster and it will be more cleaner. Okay, last thing, transducer. If you know about reducer functions in JavaScript, the reducers are more like the functions being created based upon the regardless of the input and the regardless of the input what the input it is. But transducer is more superset of the reducer. What it will do was it will create one more reducer functionality over it. Okay. And I'm looking for a Node Ninja for my startup in Sweden. Anybody interested? Looking for a Node Ninja guy? I'm looking for it.